Welcome into the PFF NFL Daily. Today discussing Odell Beckham Jr. and where he should potentially land when he's healthy, Sam. Already some discussion amongst many teams. The most recent one, the Dallas Cowboys, have shown interest. They seem like a good potential candidate for Odell Beckham, but are they the only candidate? Are they the best candidate? Let's discuss OBJ. Where should he land when he's healthy?
Yeah, all of a sudden Jerry's interested, and that makes things pretty fun. To be fair, you can see why. I mean, CeeDee Lamb has been their number one receiver this year. Okay, they've been dealing with Cooper Rush at quarterback for a bunch of those games, but that offense, having traded away Amari Cooper, has been missing something from a receiving standpoint. CeeDee Lamb, has been good, but doesn't necessarily look like he's going to be that dominant number one alpha type receiver that we thought he could be. Michael Gallup is still working his way back from injury. The guys that they added, Noah Brown already there, but Jalen Tolbert, like they haven't stepped up into that role. So if you added an OBJ to that offense, particularly as they look like they're headed to the playoffs now, having weathered the Cooper Rush weeks, I mean, that would make Dallas a pretty interesting contender in a division where everybody's chasing Philadelphia, the last undefeated team in the NFL.
I mean, if you asked a couple weeks ago, we'd obviously say, hey, the Green Bay Packers, this is their last opportunity for Aaron Rodgers to get any kind of help, but they're sitting here at 3-6 and almost certainly not. I mean, they can still make the playoffs and everything. They could make a run, but time is futile. We're running low over there in Green Bay. I think Dallas is the best fit. I really do. I mean, I think the biggest mistake, I don't want to say mistake, but the biggest thing that they lost last year was Amari Cooper. They lost, offensive linemen and the whole thing. But that offense has been different when it was Amari Cooper plus CeeDee Lamb plus a third option, whether it was Michael Gallup, whether it was Cedric Wilson. I think that is the missing, I don't want to say missing piece because there's no such thing in the NFL, but that is a key missing piece for the Dallas Cowboys. When you talk about the Philadelphia Eagles, I think they're always best described as the best all-around team in the NFL right now. The Cowboys have this great defense. The offense has been kind of hit or miss this year. We haven't seen Dak very often this year, but even when he's been out there, it's been hit or miss, and I think Odell Beckham Jr. potentially bridges that gap.
Yeah, Dallas makes a lot of sense because I think they could make use of Odell Beckham. And unlike a lot of other teams that are in the discussion, they're kind of obviously looking up at a team that's probably better than they are in Philadelphia, that obviously has a better record than they are, and that is likely to be a team they have to get past in the playoffs if they want to go to the Super Bowl in the NFC. So I think Dallas makes a lot of sense to kind of look at and say, OBJ could add something that pushes us over the edge, that brings us up to the level of a Philadelphia or whatever. And right now, after the Jerry thing, like Dallas is now the bookies' favorites for OBJ. So it makes a lot. Green Bay is second favorite. And look, Green Bay desperately needs Odell Beckham. They didn't get a move done at the trade deadline, whether or not there was ever one on the table or whether that was just spin after they didn't bother doing anything. Whatever way you cut it, like Green Bay desperately needs receiver help, and OBJ is it. The problem they have is that like they're kind of running out of things that would attract OBJ to Green Bay. Like they're probably not in contention for the Super Bowl or even for the playoffs if they dither around much longer. And I don't know if they can offer him the kind of multi-year big money contract that he seems to want either. So Green Bay makes a lot of sense from their point of view. I'm just not sure it makes a lot of sense from his point of view.
Yeah, and OBJ might not be healthy for another few weeks. By that time, Green Bay could be sitting there with 9 or 10 losses and legitimately out of the playoff picture.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to go there. Green Bay doesn't want OBJ, and OBJ doesn't want to go to Green Bay if it gets to that point. The Rams were the other team that, even though they have Allen Robinson, people had, hey, maybe there'd be a reunion there at some point. I mean, same thing with them, right? They're sitting here at 3-5, potentially not available. The Chiefs were the other team, always looking for that extra receiving help, but they just added Kadarius Toney. I feel like those teams are out.
Yeah.
What about the Buffalo Bills?
Yeah.
As a team that, going for that, that super team, and, they could be.
I actually think the Bills might make the most sense of any team in the NFL, strictly from they want to be going to the Super Bowl. They're supposed to be the best team in the NFL this year. They've wobbled, they lost to the Jets, they lost to the Dolphins. Josh Allen, if he's missing a couple of weeks, all of a sudden they could be in a race to win that division, let alone go to the Super Bowl. But the real reason is the Gabriel Davis step forward this year hasn't really happened. Like Stephon Diggs has 80 targets and nobody else in the Bills has more than 37. Like last year, Stephon Diggs had 160 something targets. Two other guys had more than 100. Like they had players that were getting those targets that don't seem to be there this year. I don't know if that's part of the reason why Josh Allen all of a sudden is making weird mistakes that he doesn't typically make, but there's definitely elements of that passing attack where you could say they could use an Odell Beckham. The problem Buffalo has is that they have about 17 cents in cap space, and that's going to be an issue.
Picture it, Sam. Your kicker's lining up for an onside kick. The chances of regaining possession are slim. The stakes are high. Tension's higher. Pulse is racing. He kicks it, and the ball bounces super high. And you can make every play feel this exciting with DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL, and their unbeatable offers. Right now, new customers can make any $5 NFL bet and get $200 in free bets if your team wins. Check it out. In addition to the usual bets, everyone can boost their winnings with DraftKings stepped-up same-game parlays. These things are paying out. To make things even sweeter, you can throw down on stepped-up same-game parlays once per game day all season long. So download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use promo code PFF to get $200 in free bets if your team wins. You just place a $5 bet on any football game only at DraftKings Sportsbook using the code PFF. Minimum age and eligibility restrictions apply. See show notes for details. Yeah, man, I think that Bills offense, the Gabe Davis thing is interesting because the fantasy people would kind of recite what you're saying. The Gabriel Davis hype never really took off because he's not a high-volume receiver, because he's a deep threat, because he's a guy that will have games where he goes for 150 yards on a couple catches, have the 98-yarder a few weeks ago. But that feels like a good number 3 in that Bills offense now that we've seen Gabriel Davis after a while. So I think Stephon Diggs plus an Odell Beckham Jr. and let Gabriel Davis just be the mismatch guy when it arises, be that deep threat, I think could be the perfect mix for the Bills.
Two more teams that I think are worth mentioning. One, the New York Giants. We thought they would be a much longer term project and maybe still are, but all of a sudden they've got like a really good record and are actually in contention in the NFC. So maybe the Giants think Odell Beckham added to a wide receiver room that just can't get itself together, can't get healthy, can't get good, makes a material difference for them. And that's probably true. And then the one more team that isn't, I don't think, in the same category as the other ones, but the Chicago Bears have a ton of cap space next year. They got a reasonable amount right now, but they have all the money in the world next year. And all of a sudden, there are signs of life from this offense and from Justin Fields. And maybe you do want to add, an Odell Beckham, not just for this year, but for the next few years, and give Justin Fields like a viable target to throw to, in addition to the moves for Chase Claypool and Darnell Mooney. Like all of a sudden, that receiving group starts to come together with an offensive line that's improving and a Justin Fields that looks good in a new system. Like the Bears could actually quite quickly catapult themselves to being a half-decent offense.
I thought you were going to go somewhere else with that, but the Bears are an interesting one. Yeah, I think at least for this year. They're sitting here at 3-6, so you're not necessarily implying, hey, they're going to make a playoff run this year, but adding Fields and Claypool and Darnell Mooney, you know me, Sam, gets a 3 deep at receiver and having legitimate options. Yeah, it absolutely helps Justin Fields in his development and gives you a chance to look potentially for next year. I don't know if that's the fit that OBJ is looking for, though. Seems like he wants to make that Super Bowl run once again, but
he has said that he wants like a multi-year thing. Like he's not just a mercenary for hire for like this year's Super Bowl run. He's looking for, maybe the money, but he's looking for a multiple year commitment from somebody. And okay, Chicago can't offer him a Super Bowl run this year, but they can offer him, here's an exciting young quarterback, and here's they can probably offer him the longest term, biggest money deal of anybody we're talking about.
The one other team I thought you might mention was the Tennessee Titans, where, we're seeing them coming off of Sunday Night Football, played a great game against the Kansas City Chiefs. They couldn't complete a pass to a receiver. Now, there's various reasons for that, but when Ryan Tannehill is healthy and back out there, having a complimentary piece to Robert Woods, that's what they've been missing this year. The Titans are winning games, but not doing it in any kind of flashy way. It's that, physical, play some D, run the ball. But at some point, they want to put points on the board, and they've missed A.J. Brown over there in Tennessee. Feels like OBJ would be a nice fit there as well.
Yeah, I just think they're such a run-heavy team that I don't know that that's a great fit for that team. Like I think they already have receivers that can work. They just don't pass the ball that much.
They just don't throw it. Hey, they were much better with A.J. Brown. That's all I know offensively, because he was going to win a game or two for them, take it over. So I could see them exploring it. So ultimately, Sam, the best fits, I think we agree, it's like the early 90s Super Bowls, Bills and Cowboys, best fits for OBJ. Yeah. Is that fair?
Yep.
All right. Let us know, where should OBJ land when he's healthy? It's the PFF NFL Daily.